The Christmas Eve fireworks bloomed like distant flowers in the night sky, their muffled pops signaling the approach of the holiday. I drove slowly down the familiar road home, a strange unease churning within me. I should have been at home, helping everyone prepare the Christmas Eve feast, but an urgent meeting with our international partners had held me until now. I sighed, a sliver of guilt creeping in. My husband, Liam, would be displeased, though he understood the demands of my job. His family, his parents, Arthur and Eleanor, and his younger sister, Lily, had always shown me nothing but understanding and affection. The lights of our villa glowed warmly ahead. From a distance, I could already smell the rich aroma of the holiday dinner mingling with the crisp winter air. The thought of our family gathered together brought a faint smile to my lips, melting away the day's exhaustion. I decided to park in a hidden corner of the garden for a little surprise, planning to sneak in and give everyone a playful scare. Tiptoeing along the garden wall, I approached the slightly ajar kitchen window. The sounds of laughter from within warmed my heart, but the words that followed froze me to the core, as if a bucket of ice water had been dumped over me in the dead of winter. "Is everything ready?" It was Eleanor, Liam's mother. "Don't worry, Mother. I've ground the powder. As soon as she gets here, I'll sprinkle it into her wild mushroom soup. It's her favorite. She'll never suspect a thing." That was Liam's voice. My loving husband, sounding so chillingly calm. Each word was a knife twisting in my heart. My father-in-law, Arthur, added in a low voice, "Make sure it finishes her. That girl is too clever. One small mistake and everything is ruined. Once she's dead, her old man's entire fortune will be ours. 10 million euros is not a small sum." The girlish giggle of Lily, my sister-in-law who always acted so sweet, was grotesque. "Then I can finally buy that sports car I've always wanted and travel the world. My sister-in-law is so lucky, helping the whole family even in death." My body trembled violently. The fireworks, the cold, the festive air, it all vanished. Before me was only a suffocating fog. The family I cherished, the man I loved with all my heart, were plotting my murder to seize my father's assets. My father, who was fighting a severe illness in the hospital, who had entrusted his entire legacy to me and his dearest son-in-law. The shock was overwhelming, a coldness that seeped into my bones. I didn't scream. My trembling hand slowly raised my phone and pressed the record button. I had to have proof. Every word they spoke was irrefutable evidence of their unforgivable crime. I held my breath as they discussed how to dispose of my body, how to feign grief. They had planned everything, every single detail, as if discussing a business deal, not a human life. When their conversation paused, I knew I couldn't wait another second. I had to get out. Forcing my legs to move, I retreated into the shadows. I took a deep, shaky breath, composed my voice, and dialed my own number. As the phone rang in my purse, I stepped out of the darkness and walked into the house as if nothing had happened. "I'm home," I announced, my face a mask of normalcy. They all flinched. Liam's expression flickered with panic before settling into a fake smile. "Darling, you're back. We were waiting for you. Come, dinner is getting cold." I smiled back, a smile that felt colder than ice. I'd love to, but the hospital just called. I held up my phone, the screen still lit. The doctor said Dad's condition has taken a turn for the worse. They need family there immediately. Disappointment flashed across their faces before being hastily concealed. "Oh, my dear, then you must go at once," my mother-in-law said quickly. "Your father's health is the most important thing." Liam moved to put a comforting arm around me. "Let me drive you." "No, it's all right," I said, gently shrugging off his hand, trying not to show my disgust. "I can get there myself. You stay and enjoy Christmas Eve with your parents. I'll call you with an update." Without giving them a chance to say more, I turned and walked away. I scrambled into my car and sped away. In the rearview mirror, I saw them standing at the door, their smiles gone, replaced by faces full of cold calculation. This was no longer a night of family union. It was the beginning of a war I could not afford to lose. I didn't drive to the hospital. My father was stable, cared for by the best doctors. My sudden appearance would only cause unnecessary alarm. I needed a safe place to think, to plan. The Grand Majestic Hotel, one of my family's properties, was my only option. In a suite overlooking the city, I felt utterly alone. The man I shared my bed with wanted me dead. The truth was brutal, but I wouldn't allow myself to break. For my father, for his life's work, and for my own life, I had to be stronger than ever. I called the 3 men my father trusted most: Mr. Dubois, our veteran family lawyer; Dr. Alistair, my father's personal physician; and Marcus, our head of security. Within half an hour, they were in my suite. "Clara, what's so urgent on Christmas Eve?" Dr. Alistair asked, his face etched with concern. I said nothing, simply handing them my phone. "Listen to this." The room fell silent, filled only by the horrifying voices of Liam and his family. The faces of the 3 men before me shifted from shock to disbelief, and finally, to pure fury. "The bastards," Mr. Dubois hissed, slamming his hand on the table. "I can't believe Liam and his family would sink so low." "Just give the order," Marcus said, his voice tight with anger. "I'll have my men round them up right now." "No," I said, raising a hand. "We can't be rash. This recording is evidence, but they could claim it's fake. We need a perfect plan, a trap they can't escape." After a moment of tense silence, Dr. Alistair spoke, his eyes determined. "We'll use their own plan against them," he explained. "They want to poison you. So, we'll let them think they've succeeded. I have a compound that induces symptoms of acute poisoning, severe pain, vomiting, but is ultimately harmless. You'll be admitted to the hospital. Once they believe you're dying, they'll get careless and expose themselves further." It was a dangerous gambit, but it was our only move. I looked at him, my voice firm. "I agree. I'll do it." That night, we meticulously planned every step. I was the bait in a deadly game, and I was ready to play my part. Returning to the villa at dawn, I found Liam on the sofa, feigning worry. "Clara, where have you been?" I was sick with worry. I looked into his eyes and saw only deceit. "I was at the hospital. Dad is very weak." As soon as we were in our room, I went to the bathroom and took the capsule Dr. Alistair had given me. When I came out, Liam handed me a glass of water. "You look so pale. Drink this." I took a small sip, my stomach churning with revulsion. Just then, the first wave of pain hit, a sharp cramp in my abdomen. My face grew pale, and sweat beaded on my forehead. "What's wrong?" Liam asked, a flicker of triumph in his eyes. I collapsed, clutching my stomach. The pain. It's unbearable. The cramps intensified, just as Dr. Alistair had described. My act had begun. He helped me to bed, his words a stream of false comfort. I saw him slip away to make a brief, quiet phone call. I could just make out his whisper, "It's working," but the dose might not have been enough. He returned, claiming he was going to buy stomach medicine. I knew he was going to get more poison. He came back with a white pill. "Take this. You'll feel better." I took the pill, pretending to swallow it but hiding it under my tongue. After faking sleep, and once he left the room, I spat it out and carefully wrapped it in a tissue. It was another piece of evidence. The next morning, my condition worsened. "On cue, doctor." Alistair arrived for a house call. After a brief examination, he announced gravely, "Clara's symptoms are consistent with severe food poisoning. She needs to be hospitalized immediately." I was taken to Dr. Alistair's private clinic, where everything was prepared. I was placed in an isolated VIP room, monitored by Marcus's men disguised as hospital staff. Liam and his family played the part of the worried relatives, but we quickly discovered a listening device they had planted behind a painting. We decided to use it. In a staged conversation, I asked Dr. Alistair, "What's wrong with me?" "We're not sure," he said loudly enough for the bug to pick it up. "We found an unknown toxin in your blood, but we can't identify it yet. You must have eaten something bad outside." The enemy had another card to play. We discovered that one of the nurses, Chloe, was a distant relative of Liam's family. She was their inside woman. A new, more dangerous trap was being set. 2 days later, Nurse Chloe entered my room to change my IV drip, her movements furtive. "Time for your injection, Miss Clara," she said, holding a syringe filled with a cloudy liquid. I knew this was the final dose meant to kill me. "What is that?" I asked calmly. "Just a high-dose antibiotic, prescribed by Dr. Allister," she stammered. Just as she was about to inject me, the door burst open. Dr. Allister and Marcus entered with 2 security guards. Chloe dropped the syringe, her face draining of color. "What are you doing, Nurse Chloe?" Dr. Allister demanded. "I prescribed no such injection." Faced with the evidence, Chloe broke down, confessing that Liam had paid her and threatened her to administer the poison. The truth was out. But instead of having her arrested, a new idea sparked. "Chloe," I said, "if you want leniency, you'll cooperate with us." Under our direction, she called Liam. In a panicked voice, she told him she had administered the drug and that I was in critical condition, being moved to the ICU. On the other end of the line, we could hear Liam's satisfied chuckle. Now, in his mind, I was on my deathbed. Believing the thorn in his side was finally being removed, he would grow reckless. He began to make his next moves to seize my assets, unaware that he was stepping deeper into a much larger net. Believing I was dying, Liam grew bolder. He began meeting frequently with a man named Vincent, a shady real estate developer. Marcus's team managed to record a conversation where Liam promised to sell Vincent the confidential plans for a massive new urban development project my family's company was pursuing. He wasn't just trying to kill me for my inheritance. He was trying to destroy my father's entire legacy. Meanwhile, Mr. Dubois uncovered documents from 20 years ago. My father and Liam's father, Arthur, had been business partners. A building they constructed collapsed, killing 2 workers and leaving 1 missing. The cause was cited as faulty materials. My father, as the legal head, took the fall, nearly going bankrupt to compensate the victims. Arthur, who was in charge of materials procurement, had disappeared with a large sum of company money. The incident had shattered their friendship. Just as these pieces were falling into place, my cousin Sophie came to visit. She was a smart, vibrant young woman who worked independently. When I told her everything, she was horrified. "Liam and his family are monsters," she said, her eyes blazing. Then, I mentioned Liam's secret meetings with Vincent. Sophie's eyes widened. "Vincent? As in, the CEO of Paragon Properties? I work there, Clara. I'm an assistant in the sales department." It was an incredible coincidence. "Sophie," I said, "can you keep an eye on them for me?" "Of course," she said, then hesitated. "There's something else. I've seen Liam a few times with another woman. Her name is Isabel. She's Vincent's personal secretary. They looked very close. Once, I overheard him on the phone with her. He said, 'Just be patient a little longer. As soon as my wife is dead, I'll marry you.' So, it wasn't just about the money. There was another woman. He was already planning his new life, built on my grave. My rage solidified into cold resolve. With Sophie's help, we tracked Liam and Isabel. He was flaunting the affair, believing I was incapacitated. They checked into a discreet countryside hotel. That was our chance. I left the hospital with Marcus, meeting Mr. Dubois and several legal witnesses at the hotel. We had the staff open the door to their room under the pretext of a sudden inspection. The sight inside was predictable. Liam and Isabel tangled together. The flash of cameras went off relentlessly. Liam's face contorted from shock to fear when he saw me standing there, perfectly healthy. "Clara? How? You're supposed to be in the hospital." I smiled, a smile devoid of any warmth. "Surprised to see me alive, Liam? Or just disappointed your poison wasn't strong enough?" "Mr." Dubois stepped forward. "Mr. Liam, we have sufficient evidence of your adultery and conspiracy. On behalf of my client, we will be filing for divorce and pressing charges for fraud, embezzlement, and attempted murder." At the mention of charges, Liam's fear turned to brazen fury. "Divorce?" he sneered. "You think you can get rid of me that easily? Don't forget, your father's life is still in my hands. One word from me, and he'll be joining your dear departed mother." His blatant threat stunned me. He was using my father's life as a bargaining chip. The situation had just become infinitely more dangerous. My father was now a hostage. The security around my father's hospital room was elevated to its highest level. No one and nothing got in or out without Dr. Alistair's personal approval. But Liam's family was more depraved than I could have imagined. 2 days later, Dr. Alistair discovered my father's heart medication had been tampered with. The pills had been replaced with a drug that causes a massive spike in blood pressure, a death sentence for a heart patient. It would have looked like a natural death. We immediately confronted Nurse Chloe. Sobbing, she confessed it wasn't Liam who had forced her this time, but Lily. His innocent little sister had threatened Chloe's young son, sending her pictures of the boy at school with a chilling message. "Do you want your son to make it home safely every day?" The entire family was a nest of vipers. This attack made it clear. The roots of this hatred ran deep, back to the incident 20 years ago. I hired a private investigator who tracked down the old foreman from the collapsed construction site. He revealed that just before the collapse, Arthur had a furious argument with one of the workers who later died, a man named Mr. Ivan. Ivan had discovered Arthur's fraud with the building materials and threatened to expose him. At the same time, we discovered that an employee in my own company, a quiet woman named Helena, was the daughter of another victim from that accident. I arranged a discreet meeting. Helena confessed a shocking truth. Before meeting me, Liam had dated her. He had used her to ensure she held no suspicions about her father's death, then callously discarded her when he found a more valuable target, me. Betrayed and heartbroken, Helena had stayed at the company, waiting for a chance to find the truth. "I'll help you," she said, her eyes burning with a desire for justice. Liam, frustrated by his failed attempts, grew desperate. He hired a group of thugs to stage a fatal car accident. The plan was to ambush the ambulance that was supposedly transferring me to an overseas facility. We let the plan proceed, but with a twist. The ambulance was reinforced, and inside were not medics, but Marcus's elite security team. The ambush occurred exactly as planned. The thugs were swiftly apprehended and immediately implicated Liam. However, with only their testimony, the police couldn't hold him. He walked free once more. It was time for me to go on the offensive. We orchestrated a small, controlled car accident for Liam. We had his brakes subtly tampered with, causing them to fail at low speed on a deserted road, sending his car into a pre-placed pile of construction sandbags. He was taken, shaken but largely unharmed, to the same hospital where I was staying. This was the opening for my grandest performance. I had Dr. Alistair announce that the shock of hearing about my husband's accident had miraculously woken me from my coma. Looking pale and frail, I slowly made my way to Liam's room. He was stunned to see me. "Clara, you're awake?" Tears streamed down my face as I clutched his hand. "I heard you were in an accident." "I was so scared I would lose you," I sobbed. "I've been thinking, maybe all of this was my fault. The affair. I don't blame you anymore. As long as you're safe, nothing else matters. Can we start over?" My performance was flawless. The arrogant fool bought it completely. He believed my love for him was so profound that the fear of losing him had shocked me back to life. He thought he had won, that I was once again under his control. In the following days, I played the part of the devoted wife, caring for him at his bedside. With his guard completely down, he began working from his hospital bed. It was the chance I had been waiting for. While he slept, I copied the entire contents of his laptop and phone. The evidence was damning. Bank records showing he had embezzled over 5 million euros, emails with Vincent detailing the sale of company secrets, and, most chillingly, a draft of a forged will, leaving all my assets to him upon my death. The final piece of my plan fell into place. A major investor meeting for the new urban development project was scheduled. Liam, as co-manager, was set to be the main presenter. The night before, I brought him a financial report I had prepared. "I had the team put this together," I said meekly. "Could you look it over? I'm so worried I made a mistake." The report was a trap, filled with wildly inflated profit margins and impossibly low costs, all figures that would look impressive at a glance, but would crumble under the slightest scrutiny. Liam, blinded by his ego, barely skimmed it. "You did well," he said, patting my hand. "Don't worry. Tomorrow I'll have them eating out of the palm of my hand." The next day, the conference room was packed. Liam, confident and smug, took the stage. He launched into his presentation, spewing the fantastical numbers from the fake report. At first, the investors were impressed. Then the questions began. "Mr. Liam, your report states land acquisition costs are 30% below market value. How is that possible?" one seasoned investor asked. Liam faltered. That's due to the special negotiations." "Impossible," another shot back. "That land is under a public trust. The price is fixed." Question after question hammered him, exposing the absurdity of his figures. He began to sweat, looking to me for help. I offered none. When he was thoroughly humiliated, standing silently on the stage like a fool, I rose and walked to the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, my voice clear and strong. "First, I must apologize for this lack of professionalism. Perhaps my husband is still recovering from his accident and has confused some figures." I paused. But today, there are more important truths to be revealed. The large screen behind me flickered. It was no longer showing business charts. Instead, it played the secret recording from Christmas Eve of his family plotting my murder. The room erupted in gasps. The screen changed, displaying a cascade of evidence. The bank statements of his embezzlement, the emails selling our company's secrets, the photos of him with Isabel at the hotel, and finally, the forged will. "Liam," I said, looking directly at him, my voice like ice, "you are not just a cheat and a thief. You are a cold-blooded monster who tried to murder his wife for money." As if on cue, the main doors of the conference hall burst open, and police officers streamed in. "Liam Arthurson, you are under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit murder." As they handcuffed him, his face a mask of disbelief and hatred, he snarled at me, "You will regret this." The relief I felt was short-lived. His threat echoed in my ears. Just as the room cleared, my phone rang. It was Dr. Allister, his voice frantic. "Clara, get to the hospital. It's your father. Someone got to him." My heart stopped. I raced to the hospital to find a frantic scene outside the ICU. "What happened?" I cried. "An imposter dressed as a nurse snuck in during your press conference," Dr. Allister said, his face pale. "They injected a fast-acting poison directly into his IV line. We're doing everything we can." He showed me a still from the security camera. The figure was disguised, but a brief turn of the head revealed the profile. It was Lily. While I sat numbly in the hospital corridor, my phone rang again. A strange number. "Clara? It's me, Helena. Help me. I found it the proof of what Arthur did, but they saw me. They're chasing me." "Where are you?" I yelled, jumping to my feet. "The old warehouse is by the docks. Come alone. Don't call the police or they'll kill me." The line went dead. I knew it was a trap. But what if it wasn't? I couldn't risk Helena's life. I sent a quick, coded text to Marcus with the location, telling him it was an ambush and to follow me discreetly with the police. Then I drove. The warehouse was dark and derelict. I stepped inside, and the heavy iron door slammed shut behind me. Arthur and Lily emerged from the shadows. Behind them, Helena was bound and gagged. "Welcome, dear daughter-in-law," Arthur sneered. Suddenly, he lunged, pressing a cloth soaked in chloroform over my face. The world faded to black. I woke up tied to a chair. Arthur tossed a stack of papers into my lap contract, signing over my entire fortune to Lily. "Sign it, and I'll give you a quick death," he said calmly. "Refuse, and I'll make you beg for it." In that moment of terror, I remembered. Sophie had given me a small, ornate hair clip. It was more than jewelry. It contained a tiny GPS tracker and a panic button. As I pretended to break down, sobbing and agreeing to sign, I managed to press my head back against the hard edge of the chair, activating the button. They untied one of my hands. As I deliberately signed my name with slow, shaky strokes, buying precious seconds, Arthur raised a knife. Time to say goodbye. Suddenly, the warehouse doors crashed inwards. Blinding headlights flooded the space. "Police! Drop your weapons!" Marcus and a team of armed officers swarmed in, subduing Arthur and Lily in seconds. The tiny hair clip had saved my life. The arrest led to a full search of their villa. In a secret drawer, police found forged documents from the 20-year-old construction project. But the most horrific discovery was in the basement. Beneath a slab of newly poured concrete, they unearthed a human skeleton. Forensic analysis quickly identified the remains as Mr. Ivan, the missing worker who had argued with Arthur 2 decades ago. The collapse hadn't been an accident. It was a cover-up for a murder. Faced with the undeniable proof, Arthur confessed everything. He had killed Mr. Ivan to silence him, then orchestrated the collapse to kill other potential witnesses and frame my father, whom he had always envied. But his confession held one last, soul-shattering revelation. He admitted to sabotaging my mother's car years ago, causing the fatal accident that had been ruled a tragedy. She was too smart, he spat. She was starting to suspect. At the trial, justice was absolute. For his multiple murders, Arthur was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Liam received a life sentence for his role, and Lily was given 20 years. The day of the sentencing, the sky was a brilliant, clear blue. I felt my mother's spirit, and the spirits of all his victims could finally rest in peace. In the year that followed, life found a new rhythm. Miraculously, my father began to recover. The knowledge that justice had been served was the best medicine. I officially took over as CEO of the company, my leadership solidified. With a portion of our profits, I established a charitable foundation in my mother's name, dedicated to helping women who are victims of domestic violence and fraud. Another Christmas Eve arrived. The air was filled with the sound of carols and the scent of pine. In our warm, brightly lit home, my father, though still in a wheelchair, was rosy-cheeked and smiling. Sophie, now my right hand at the company, sat beside him. We raised our glasses, not to forget the past, but to toast the future. The long storm was over. A new day had dawned, full of light and hope. Use arrow up and arrow down to select a turn, enter to jump to it, and escape to return to the chat.